I don't normally do reviews for the props that I buy, but I use my balls a lot, and I have to say I'm mostly pretty impressed with these things. So I figured I'd talk about it a little bit. So if this is something you've been thinking about buying, listen up, I guess. I want to be clear real quick, though. I'm a big beanbag guy personally. These are beanbags. I know there's a lot of other different types of balls out there, like Russians or whatever you might want to use. I don't think it's fair to compare the two things, so not going to talk about those. Just going to stick to beanbag stuff. Let's jump into it. So I guess the first big question then is just why did I buy these? And it basically breaks down to durability. I was given a recommendation that Gballz were very durable compared to other beanbags, and I have had a lot of trouble in the past with beanbags that sort of wear and fall apart over time. For example, I have a brand new-ish Duvet ball and a Duvet ball that I used for several years. These both started with the same coating. Over time, the leather covering on this one wears out until you get something that's just the fabric left, and then eventually you get like holes and stuff in this, and it stops being usable. And these ones that I said were brand new, you can see already that the covering is starting to wear out a little bit. And that'll happen over time, and it starts to look like these little cracks, which does not look great. I mean, from a distance, you can't really tell, so it doesn't matter too much. But it is a little annoying. And in terms of like the actual durability of the ball, because I was told they were so crazy durable, even though the website says indoor use, I've been using them outside and it hasn't been a problem throwing them on concrete, whatever, bricks. It's all good. Not a single scratch on these things in the time that I've had them. I'm sure if I used them long enough and was that abusive the whole time, they'd wear a little bit faster. But still, I'm impressed with how durable they are. Even, and this is kind of a stupid thing, but I have had this old rusty hacksaw on the floor in this room for a while because I was sawing a thing earlier that I have been telling myself for like a month that I'm going to go put this saw away, and then I keep not actually doing that. So it's just on the floor, and I have been dropping balls on the blade of the hacksaw, and still not a scratch on the beanbag, which is pretty impressive for being thrown at a saw. So I'd say that's durable. So in terms of actually ordering these things, the website is both a plus and a minus, and that's a bit nitpicky, but it is a little confusing to tell what the difference is between the options on the website. They have two main ball styles, but it's sort of tough to tell the difference. This one pretty much just says it's a ball, and the description for the other style says that it is a little bit less heavy, and that it's also really good. And that works for me. They're both the same price anyway, so why not just get the one that says Pro? My only other issue with the website is the color selection. It's super nice to be able to choose custom colors, but I have no idea what any of these options mean, and the graphics don't update to show you, so unless I'm missing something super obvious here, you kind of just have to wing it. Which, you know, it is what it is. As far as I know, there's only one guy doing this, so it's not like a big company. So that's fine. If the balls are good quality, it doesn't really matter what the website's like so much. But I wanted to mention that it's a little frustrating, and I'm sure I probably could have asked the guy for some clarifications on stuff when I was ordering. I just didn't feel a need to. I will say, though, it's nice compared to a lot of other websites where you just have stock options to choose from, because you can do customization with these. You can pick each panel color that you want. So I went in and chose specifically, I've been using these colors for a lot of the things that I've been making, including the juggling props that I invented, which are the club poi. If you haven't seen that, there's a video on it in the description, so go check that out. But back with this, it's just nice to be able to customize a little bit, especially if you have like a brand style that you want to stick to. One last thing I wanted to mention about the process of buying these, they do advertise fairly slow shipping, like up to a couple months, which means if you're in immediate need of balls, that's something to consider. But I will say for me, it only took a couple weeks to get here, so pleasantly surprised by that, but I may have also just gotten lucky, who knows. The next thing I want to talk a little bit about is the feel of the ball, which is a bit of a subjective thing, but what I will say is that the leather that they use for these is just really nice, and every time I've like tossed one to somebody else, I get the same reaction. Oh, that's nice. It's kind of hard to describe why that is. They're just very comfortable in the hand. Also, with balls like this, and this is something that I've noticed in general, when you first get the ball, it's like fairly firm, and then over time they start to loosen up a little bit. And I personally like them to be a little bit looser, so you have to wear in new balls, which is kind of annoying. The same is true for these, which I believe are Higgins brothers. I'm not 100% sure on that, though, because they were a gift and I don't really remember. But when I first got these, they were very stiff, and then I used them for about a year, and now they're like pretty squishy. But the other thing with the squishy is that, again, they start to like rip the coating off, and you get exposed like fabric underneath, which is not ideal. The Gballz come slightly worn in already, so they're a little bit squishy, which is perfect. You don't have to break them in, and I've had these for maybe 5 or 6 months now, and they are exactly the same as when I got them. So it's not like they wear in and get squishier. They are just always the perfect amount of squishy. The last thing that I want to talk about with these is the value, because they cost about twice as much as sort of what the standard would be for a beanbag that you get from like Renegade or wherever you buy juggling stuff. So is that worth it? I would say that if you're just getting into juggling now, that something like a duvet ball is totally fine. Pretty much any beanbag that you get will make it a little bit easier to juggle if you don't have actual juggling balls yet. And this fancy thing is not really worth it. But if you're starting to take juggling a little bit more seriously, I would 100% recommend these. Also, it is worth mentioning, even though it should be fairly obvious because I'm a very small channel, but I am not being sponsored here. I just genuinely like the ball. Anyway, I think that the quality difference more than makes up for the cost difference. Because if you hadn't been able to tell by the amount of balls that I've held up already, they break down over time and they wear out. And something like this, I only used for maybe a year and it's already pretty torn up. I have about half the time on this, but not a single scratch. So they're going to last a lot longer. And if they last twice as long, they're worth twice the cost. Plus, they feel much better and all those other things that I mentioned already. Now, I will say that there's also the curse of juggling where the better you get, the more expensive the hobby gets. Because not only do you start buying nicer equipment, but you start needing more of everything. Because when you start, you only need 3. And then at a certain point, you get 4 into 5. And, you know, while I'm at it, I might as well buy 7. Because what if I want to start trying to work on 7? And then I could just get 8 because I'm here and I don't have to pay shipping again later. And then if I'm getting 8, I might as well get 9 because then that's 3 sets of 3. But what am I going to do with an odd number of sets? So I should probably just get 12. And then I have a problem, but that's fine. It's not the point right now. Hopefully you enjoyed this and it was helpful if you're trying to make a decision on buying Gballz or not. If you did, leave a like. I might do more review stuff in the future. I don't know. I'm just trying something new here. But yeah. I guess see you around. Subscribe if you want to see more of whatever this was.